All right, let's dive into it. Today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast, we are going to be doing a deep dive in the transportation depth exam. Now, if you've been paying attention to the last few episodes of our podcast, we have been doing deep dives on all of these specs, and right now we are just hitting transportation. So if you're not taking transportation, then maybe you want to skip over this one. But if you are, then definitely give this one a listen. Typically, transportation depth exam is one of the more popular exams that are taken. And so we want to go over everything with you. So with that introduction, if you're taking the transportation depth exam, this is going to be one that you're going to want to listen to, and it's going to be coming up right after this. All right, so let's just start diving into some of the details. I want to talk about the exam experience itself at the beginning so that you can wrap your head around that as you're preparing for this exam. But the exam itself is 9 hours. You have a 50-minute break. You have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. There's a tutorial. All of that takes a little bit of time, but you end up with 8 hours taking this exam. It's broken up to AM and PM questions still, so you'll still have AM type questions that are that don't require standards. They're a little more breadth related in terms of their difficulty and the categories that they follow. And in fact, the first eight sections in the spec are all the same among all the specifications. And then we'll dive into your specifics for your own depth exam for transportation. So yes, be prepared to be there for 8 hours sitting there for an exam. You'll have your break in the middle. Definitely take that. You need to recharge. But it's a lengthy exam. It's a closed book exam except for the reference handbook that they give you, which you can get a free copy of if you head to the NCEES website. If you create an account with them, you'll go in there and you can get handbooks, and the latest handbook will be there for you to use at your disposal. Definitely recommend using that for all of your practice problems moving forward. There is another resource from PPI, the Civil Engineering Reference Manual. I still think that is a valuable tool if you're trying to learn the concepts, because the handbook is simply just charts, graphs, figures, and equations. So, I still think the tool from PPI is still a valid tool, the Civil Engineering Reference Manual. You can check that out at civilengineeringacademy.com/PPI. Anyway, so you have your handbook. You'll also have access to your standards. Now, transportation requires quite a few standards, and those will be at your disposal as well, and they will be on your left-hand side of your screen. And so you'll have that the entire exam. It's not going to be just given to you for, the codes and standards are not just going to be given to you for the depth portion only. You're going to have access to those the entire time. They're all searchable, so use Control F a lot, and you'll be able to search through things very quickly. Usually less is more when you're trying to search for things, as you can pull up a lot of material quicker. So anyway, those are just real quick tips. Make sure you understand all the little stuff as you go into this exam, know where your testing center is. I would also recommend not kicking the exam down the road after you've registered, because every time you re-register, it's going to cost money to reschedule the exam. And the exam's already $375 to register this year. I'm assuming it's going to be the same for quite some time. But as of this recording, it's $375. And you will be, be paying money if you have to reschedule that exam. So you don't want to do that. Commit to the date you're going to take it. The exam's offered year-round now. You can take it once in each quarter, and you should be set. So set a goal to take that, and then I think we got it all covered. Let's go ahead and dive into the specifications first. We'll also talk about pass rates for this particular exam, give some of my thoughts and opinions on that. We'll also talk about where to get resources, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview of the exam itself as you're preparing for this, and as you're wrapping your head around it. And we'll get started with the specification review coming up. All right, we have dived into the spec. You can go grab this at ncees.org. Go check out once you log in, or I think you can just do a quick search and you can find the specs for this. But this is for the transportation depth section. This is effective as of January 1 of 2022. It has not changed since April of 2015 when these were originally published. And they do change these, every so many years. People hate that. I don't like that either, but it is what it is. They look at industry trends and they kind of tweak these over time. But the truth is that the concepts are generally the same. They generally just shuffle them around. All the problems and the concepts are really all the same. Again, the exam's a computer-based exam. It's a closed book. You can't bring in any books with you. You can't, it's not like it used to be. So you can bring in your calculator. They give you something to write on, and that's pretty much it. So they give you a little locker, put in your snacks and stuff. You'll have your handbook. You'll also have access to the codes and standards. The examinees listed here, again, I said 9 hours. You have 80 questions. You really have 8 hours to take the exam. The 9-hour total includes a tutorial, an optional scheduled break, and you got to work all questions. The exam uses both the SI units and the US units. Although, depending on your industry, typically I've only seen US units being asked, but they do throw that in there. So you need to be aware of that. The exam is developed with questions that will require a variety of approaches and methodologies, including design, analysis, and application. What that basically means is that we can throw at you, any type of question. And so you're going to see a lot of theory questions on the exam. Most people see roughly, 10 questions, 10 to 15 questions on the exam. It's quite a bit. So just remember that. And then the examples, it says here, this is a coverall. The examples specified in knowledge areas are not exclusive or exhaustive or exclusive. This basically means we can ask you whatever we want. It doesn't have to stick to this. But they obviously generally do, but it's kind of a coverall for them that they can really ask whatever they want. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, they got this coverall in there. Not a comforting feeling that they can't ask you whatever they want, but if history is anything, they definitely don't. They haven't veered off of what they've got in here. There's plenty of topics that they can go to. But again, not areas are all exclusive or exhaustive listed here. All right, let's dive into the spec. So the first thing we got to cover, again, 1 through 8 is the AM type questions, and those are the same among all specs. So the first one is project planning. It's 4 to 6 questions. You've got quantity takeoff methods, cost estimating, project schedules, activity identification, and sequencing. So that's all project management type stuff that you're going to want to know. And it's a fairly larger area. Next, number 2 is means and methods, 3 to 5 questions. You have to know construction loads, construction methods, and temporary structures and facilities. Number 3, soil mechanics. Bigger section at 5 to 8 questions asked. You got to know lateral earth pressure, soil consolidation, effective and total stresses, bearing capacity, foundation settlement, and slope stability. So again, that's one of the heavier topics, soil mechanics. And you'll see soil mechanics thrown in other areas as they shift the spec a little bit, but that's what they have under soil mechanics. Number 4 is structural mechanics, and again, 5 to 8 questions there, another bigger section. You've got dead and live loads, trusses, bending moments, shear diagrams, axle loads, combined stresses, deflections, beams, columns, slabs, footings, and retaining walls. So footings and retaining walls could also be thrown under soil mechanics, but that's where they put structural mechanics. So a bigger section there. Section 5 is hydraulics and hydrology. Over the years, these used to be separate categories. Now they're combined. And this is the biggest section at 6 to 9 questions now. So you have open channel flow. You have stormwater collection and drainage. You have storm characteristics. You have runoff analysis. You have detention and retention ponds. You have pressure conduits, and you also have the energy equation or continuity equation. This is a good section. Again, used to be 2 separate, but once they combined, it's now the biggest section. You got to know it's 6 to 9 questions. Section 6 is geometrics, which is transportation. And this is 3 to 5 questions. This used to be a lot bigger back in the day, and now it's only 3 elements here. You've got basic curve, circular curve elements, you have basic vertical curve elements, and you have traffic volume. Circular curve elements are horizontal curves is another name for that. So 3 to 5 questions there. But obviously transportation is your depth section. So we're going to have to know a lot more related to transportation. Section 7 is materials, and that deals with soil classification and boring log interpretation, soil properties, concrete, structural steel, material test methods and specs, and compaction. And that is a large section at 5 to 8 questions. Number 8 is site development. And again, this will round off the AM questions. So site development, 4 to 6 questions. That you're dealing with excavation and embankments, which are cut and fills. You have construction site layout and control. You have temporary and permanent soil erosion and sediment control. You also have impact of construction on adjacent facilities, which could be noise or vibration or anything to deal with stuff you're doing on a work site. You also have safety. So, OSHA stuff, 4 to 6 questions there. So that is the AM section that, you'll be tested on. Those again do not require standards. Okay. You'll just have, you really should only need to use your handbook for that. Now we dive into your depth stuff, and these are going to be harder questions. People are always surprised, at how hard they are, but it looks like the biggest section for transportation comes off right at the beginning. That is section 9 for traffic engineering, which is capacity analysis and transportation planning. You have 10 to 15 questions that fall under that. So this falls under these categories. So you have uninterrupted flow, which deals with level of service and capacity. You have street segment interrupted flow. Again, level of service, running time, and travel speed. You have intersection capacity. You have traffic analysis. You have trip generation and traffic impact studies. You have accident analysis, non-motorized facilities, traffic forecast, and highway safety analysis. So a lot of topics fall under there, and you got 10 to 15 questions falling under traffic engineering. Section 10 is horizontal design. So they do call it that there. And there's 3 to 5 questions here. So basic curve elements, site distance considerations, super elevation, special horizontal curves. I think it's funny. Super elevation used to be part of the AM section, but now it's specifically called out in the PM section. So 3 to 5 questions for horizontal design. Section 11 is vertical design, 3 to 5 questions there. So vertical curve geometry, stopping site and passing site distance, as well as vertical clearances. Section 12 is intersection geometry. And for this, we're dealing with intersection site distance, interchanges, as well as at-grade intersection layout, including roundabouts. So we're getting spread out over here. There's 3 to 5 questions there. And then section 13 is roadside and cross-section design at 3 to 5 questions. You have forgiving roadside concepts, which are clear zones, slopes, roadside obstacles. You also have barrier designs, cross-section elements, as well as the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act design considerations falling under section 13. Section 14, 3 to 5 questions for signal design, so signal timing as well as signal warrants. Section 15 is traffic control design, so signs and pavement markings, temporary traffic control. And section 16 is geotech and pavement at 4 to 6 questions asked. So you have sampling and testing, soil stabilization techniques, settlement and compaction, excavation, embankment, and mass balance. That's kind of a big section. You have design traffic analysis and pavement design procedures. You have pavement evaluation and maintenance measures. And that rounds out geotech and pavement, 4 to 6 questions. Section 17 is drainage, so hydrology as well as hydraulics, including culvert and storm water collection design. So you can see that, you know, between the section 16 and 17, you're also going to cover some of that in the AM portion, but now we're going to go a little deeper. And for section 17 for drainage, you got 2 to 4 questions involved there. And lastly, number 18 is alternative analysis. So economic analysis. This is more engineering economics, present worth, life cycle costs. You have 1 to 3 questions there. So that rounds out all 18 topics that you're going to be covered on the transportation exam. And you definitely want to spend a lot of your time in the depth portion because it does translate into the AM stuff as well. Like I said, some of these topics are crossovers into that area. Now, the transportation depth exam does have quite a few standards and codes that you're going to want to know. if we're diving down a little further into the spec, they reference the handbook and what that looks like and the testing center. If you go to the NCES YouTube channel, you can study up on that. Let's just go through a couple of these things. Let's see. I've already mentioned this, but the handbook and the design standards are available the entire exam. And though design standards are not needed for the breadth portion. So just remember that. Solutions to the exam questions that reference a standard of practice are scored based on this list and the revision year shown. Solutions based on any other standards will not receive credit. So if you're using something that's dated 2022 or next year, the exam has the standards that they have, and you need to use the year that they have, because that's going to give you the correct answer. Okay. So you need to get the right standards. The NCES doesn't design standards. They don't sell them. So they note that, but you can get access to the handbook. So beg, borrow, steal, just kidding, don't steal, but you got to get these standards somehow. Oftentimes coworkers have them. Oftentimes you can search for these. Oftentimes they are free. So make sure you can grab these. So the first one listed is the AASHTO GDHS7, a policy on geometric design of highways and streets, the 7th edition, 2018, including the 2019 errata. So something to note. The AASHTO GDPS4M, which is Guide for Design of Pavement Structures, 4th edition, 1993 with 1998 supplement. You have the AASHTO GPF1, which is the Guide for Planning, Design and Operation of Pedestrian Facilities, the 1st edition, 2004. You have the AASHTO HSM1, which is the Highway Safety Manual, the 1st edition, 2010 with the 2014 supplement, including September 2010, February 2012, and March 2016 errata. So make sure you get those. The AASHTO MEPDG-2, the mouthful here. The Mechanistic Empirical Pavement Design Guide, a Manual of Practice, 2nd edition, August 2015. Could we name that something different? Wow. And then we've got the AASHTO RSDG4, Roadside Design Guide, 4th edition, 2011, including the errata in 2012 and 2015. And then the FHWA HIF 12-026, the Hydraulic Design of Highway Culverts, the 3rd edition, 2012. You got the HCM, the Highway Capacity Manual, volumes 1 through 4, 6th edition, 2016. And lastly, the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Street and Highways, 2009, including revisions 1 and 2 dated 2012. How many standards is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 standards listed. Other exams definitely have more than that, but still a good amount of material there that you're going to have to dive through when you do practice problems, practice exams. You're going to want to have these at your disposal as well. So that, my friends, is a quick rundown of the specifications as well as the codes and standards that you need. My recommendation is, now that you know the specs, start building a schedule around those specifications that you need to hit and start preparing how you're going to schedule your study time around this. And these are all the topics that you're going to want to know. And so that's the way to do it. So yeah, let's dive into pass rates next. And I think you'll be, maybe we'll be surprised by that, maybe not, but let's check that out next. All right. Again, we're sharing our screen. Let's talk about pass rates. So the NCES has converted, or in the process of converting, all these exams to CBT. They've already done all the civil, but they want to note here that some of the PE exams are administered year-round via computer-based testing. For the exams, pass rates are shown for the January to June or July to December population. They are updated in July and January, respectively. And so if you go down here and look at transportation, you can see that it's offered year-round and that it indeed was last updated June of 2022. So let's take a look at the numbers for transportation. For transportation, we had 1,462 people take that exam. It is the highest for first-time test takers. So the most people that took the PE exam was in transportation, and 65% of people passed, which is a pretty good number. It's the highest pass rate among all of the civil PE exams. As a repeat taker, it says only 33 were repeat takers, and 55% of those passed, which again is the second highest among repeat takers. Now, in the past, these pass rates used to be higher. I would say it used to be 65 to 70%, and repeat takers was probably a little better. Maybe not. Maybe it was the same. But if you look at any of the other exams, you'd probably get heartbroken knowing that others are 26% as repeat takers. So, pretty good rates here. It's got the highest for first-time test takers and the second highest for repeat takers. But the truth of it is that all of these exams are difficult. Don't get your head down if you have failed this. Just know that you gotta put in the effort to do it, whether it's your first time or your fifth time. Let's make sure we're getting new problems, new exams, and identifying where our weakest points are so that we can improve. Don't get off the bus, okay? If you're failing the exam, let's get back on it and get after it. So anyway, interesting pass rates. And I did an interview with, at the time, the NCES exams director, and we had a great interview, talked about repeat pass rates and such. If you want to check that out, go check out our podcast at civilengineeringacademy.com/podcast, or you can find it on any podcatcher out there and go give it a listen. You can go check that out. So anyway, those are the pass rates for this. I think you got a really good chance of getting this one done the first time, and even as a repeat taker, it's one of the highest. So good thing to know. Let's next, we're going to dive into resources for this exam, where to go to get them, and highlight some ones I think are important to know. All right, so let's talk about resources. The first thing I'm going to point you to is obviously our own, and maybe that's a little biased, but you know what? I don't really care. Just kidding. All right. First thing. So if you go to civilengineeringacademy.com, the reason why I point you here is that we try to list any resource that's going to be good for you. So I'm not going to just point you to our stuff. We're going to point you to everything else that's out there. So if you go to resources on our website and go to depth resources, you can go to transportation books, and it will tell you what we recommend that's out here. So a lot of PPI material is still good. They got a good bundle for stuff. They got 6-minute solutions. You obviously need the NCES practice exam, which gets updated frequently. This may be an old cover, but the point is that it's good to take an exam from the test taker, the test creator, even though you'll never see those problems. At least it gives you a feel for the exam. There's some good material from PPI. They've got a good reference manual you may want to check out, and I'll show you that. But if you go to PPI website, go to use our link at civilengineeringacademy.com/PPI and save some money. But yeah, check that out. Other manuals I thought were good, or this transportation manual. Obviously, you need the HCM and other design standards. It's always helpful to have a good textbook, so we've recommended a few of those on here that you can check out. And then handbooks for asphalt engineering, highway handbooks, things that other people have referenced that are good, pavement engineering, principles of pavement engineering, pavement design of pavement structures, as well as the traffic engineering handbook. Obviously, you're going to want all the standards that we just listed, but these links will take you probably to Amazon. You can grab those books, but we recommend stuff there that you can check out. Obviously, we have our own exams as well, so you can check those out. We have an exam specifically built for the transportation depth exam. We also have breadth material, and we also launched a civil PE exam simulator. So if you want to take a real life exam that looks very close to the real deal, all on a computer with your codes and standards and handbook on the left and problems on the right, the ability to flag problems and all that jazz, we just released that. Check that out, the Ultimate PE CBT Exam Simulator. So anyway, go check that out. Oh, and courses. If you need a course, we definitely have those to help you. You can check those out here under review courses, or you can go to civilpereviewcourse.com and check those out. We do have depth material. We also have breadth material as well. So check that out. The next one is simply Amazon. You've probably done this before, but just do a search for transportation depth exam, you're going to bring up a ton of exams that are out there, and highly recommend any of them. You know, you need problems under your belt, so let's get them. Our own exams on there too. You can check that out. I think one person's bought it. So anyway, but yeah, check out the others. There's a lot of good material here. The point is that you got to get problems under your belt. So definitely get them. PPI's material is also on Amazon, but I usually recommend going to their website, and you can use our link for that, civilengineeringacademy.com/PPI. But they have a good 6-minute solutions, depth practice exams. I highly recommend getting those. And they even have a reference manual that can help you. But your head should really be wrapped in the handbook, but that's going to help as well. And then just in general, just good practice exams throughout the whole thing. So check that out. That's Amazon. You know what to do there. Go check it out. The other one is School of PE, which I thought was really good. They just barely released these, by the way. But if you go to products under new PE civil exam review guides, you'll be taken to all the review guides, and they actually have a volume 1 and volume 2 for the transportation exam. And if you add to cart, and it takes you there, it's $330 for these books, but you basically get everything you need in these volumes, right? It's going to they cover everything that's in the spec. So if you click on, after you put it in your book, in your thing here, cart, yeah, you go click on it. And what they're giving you is everything that's in the spec. So the volume 1 covers everything that's in the AM portion, the first 8 topics, and the PM for volume 2 covers everything in the rest of the topics for your PM exam. So I think that's extremely valuable. It's probably the 1-2 punch that you need. If you want that, go check that out through our link as well, civilengineeringacademy.com/SOPE, and you can go get access to that as well. So those are the resources I recommend. Definitely go check those out. Plenty of material out there for you. If you have a resource that you would recommend, maybe you took the exam before, shoot me an email and let me know about it. We would love to get those posted on our website to help others in the future. Shoot me an email, Isaac@civilengineeringacademy.com. All right, that's going to do it for resources. We talked about pass rates, and we went through the entire spec. So that should cover it on my end with the screen share. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up and close it out. All right, so I hope that helped you. If you're diving into the transportation depth exam, it's a really good exam to go take. You have fairly high pass rates compared to others. There's a huge volume of more people that take that exam. In addition, if you're a repeat taker, it's also a good one to do as well. So it's always been a popular exam to take, the transportation depth exam. So it's definitely a good one to consider, especially if you're in that world, and you'll be set to go. So hopefully, we've identified the spec. You're comfortable with that. You can build a schedule around that, a study schedule. We've identified resources for you that you can go tackle and grab as you need them. And yeah, so you should be set, ready to go. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, Isaac@civilengineeringacademy.com. And if you need additional resources, definitely check out our website, civilengineeringacademy.com as well. We do have exams there for you. We also created just recently a computer-based exam that you can actually go take right now to test you. And we've built it to look just like the real deal. You'll have exams and specs on the left, your questions on the right. You can flag problems. You have the tools, a couple alternative item type questions. It's all the good stuff, and it's all there for you. You can find that at civilengineeringacademy.com as well. So, yeah, it's all there for you. Definitely continue to check out our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We continue to put out some amazing content to help you ace your exams, and good stuff there too. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye-bye.